Hey guys, Jared Lopes here from the Dad Tired Podcast. Just wanted to hop on here. I know many of you guys are thinking about doing a podcast for your ministry, or maybe you're already doing one and just want to see some momentum behind that. We've been doing the Dad Tired Podcast since 2016. We kind of jumped in really when it felt like podcasts were just starting to get a little bit of momentum. And so we've been trying to stumble our way through that for the last several years, but that is actually our primary way to reach guys. And so we've put a lot of thought and time into thinking, how do we make this the best experience possible for the guys who are deciding to download our show and listen and be encouraged by it. That being said, even though we jumped in 2016, I know some of you guys might be thinking like, did we miss the train? Is it too late to jump into this? Are we going to get buried kind of in the crowd? The truth is there's tens of thousands of podcasts, and I've heard hundreds a day being launched. And yet I still feel like it's the ground floor. Like, I just think that if you talk to most people, if you go out on the street and just say, hey, do you listen to podcasts? Majority, I don't know what the numbers are, but majority would still say no, meaning there's still tons of room for the platform to grow or the medium to grow. And there's just lots of ways that you can jump in. Like, people are still looking for good content. One of the reasons I think it's growing so much is because we are a multitask culture. Guys want to be able to mow the lawn and accomplish something else. People want to be able to do the dishes or clean the house or go on a drive, commute, work out, whatever it is, and be able to do something else. That's why audiobooks have really risen. And so the on-demand platform to listen to content while being able to do something else, I think that's still going to grow and explode. So if you're thinking about it and you feel discouraged, like you didn't get in quick enough, I would just say that's not the case. The other thing is, I know a lot of people feel discouraged, like, well, there's already a men's thing out there, or for us, there's already a dad podcast out there. Do we really want to contribute? And I would say, your voice matters. God has made you unique and your ministry unique to speak to a unique person. And that kind of gets into my first point. So if you are starting a podcast, or you're thinking about starting one, or you have one and you want to figure out how to just make it better, the first thing I would tell you is to create an avatar. That's a word that I was using when I very first started. I was going to a small group of guys. This was probably 6-7 years ago. I was meeting with these guys once a week on like Thursday mornings for breakfast, and we just talk about what it looks like to be the men God's created us to be. And there was one guy in particular who was a brand new Christian. He was a simple guy. He worked hard. He had a normal 9-to-5 job, and he loved his family, but he didn't really know exactly how to lead them. He was fairly new to the faith, and so he's just trying to figure out, man, I'm committed, but I just feel ignorant when it comes to leading my family well. And I remember, he didn't know this. I've told him this since then, but I literally took a picture of him that I found on Facebook, and I printed it and I put it up on my computer. And when I was recording podcasts, when I'm just staring at the recording software on my screen, I was literally looking at him, and I was just talking to him specifically. And so for you, this was one of the most helpful things that I did early on, was to really think, who exactly am I talking to? You try to talk to everybody, your message gets watered down and gets lost, but you talk to one guy, even in the way that you're using particular words during your podcast. You're talking to one guy, and I say that. So I'll say things like, hey man, I know you're mowing the lawn right now as you listen to this, or maybe you're mowing the lawn or you're driving to work. What I'm doing is I'm making this a really personal connection and intimate, so they don't feel like I'm talking to a giant audience. This is the difference between like a podcast where you're in somebody's ears versus standing on a stage giving a message at church or a conference or whatever. It's very, very personal. And so I want that. I want to build on that as much as I can and really make that connection feel super tight. And so I talk to one guy. So that would be my biggest connection, or my biggest encouragement for you, is pick one guy who you're talking to. What's his name? What's his ethnic background? Where does he live? How much does he work? Is he old? Is he young? Does he have kids in the house, out of the house? Does he have babies? Does he have grandkids? Is this guy planning for retirement, or did he just start his career? Like, who specifically are you talking to? And the more that you can get that down, literally, I would put like a name to it, an age, a marital status, as many details as you can add to that one guy. Create him, and then speak as you're doing your podcast. Speak directly to that guy. There's a saying in business. I'm sure many of you guys listening are much smarter at this stuff than I am, but it's niches make riches. And obviously, we're in ministry. None of us are trying to, get rich here. But I think the point is, when you really narrow down to one specific thing, you're going to find that your business, or for us, our ministry, is going to get much more effective. So just think through that one guy, name him. If you have to, put him on your computer and speak to that guy. I know I'm already kind of running out of time here, so I'm going to fly through these other ones real quickly. I would say, how often are you talking to him? So do you want a weekly podcast? I know guys who do one 5 days a week, so that when guys are on the commute, they're short, like 5-minute Monday to Friday podcasts. For us, we drop an episode every Monday, which statistically is the most downloaded day for podcasts. So I just kind of capitalized on that. I don't know if it really matters, but I drop an episode every Monday morning, and they say that Mondays are the most downloaded podcast a day. So determine how often you're talking to them, and then what's the call to action at the end of the episode, or maybe they would call it mid-roll, middle of the episode. What are you trying to get them to do? What's the one thing? And this is huge, and some sub-points to that point would be have somewhere for them to connect afterwards, whether it's an email list, a Facebook community, your own app, whatever it is. Give them something to where they can process and chew on this, ideally in some kind of community, online community, small group, or even just through an email list. Like, hey, here's the action step I want you to do. Go over to this Facebook page, join because other guys are talking about this. Or maybe join our email list because we're going to send out 5 questions that you can go through your small group with. This is a great, I would say, capture them, because what most guys are going to do is they're going to download 15 podcasts. They're going to go through it and they'll listen and they'll move on and they'll forget. They may have even thought that was the best podcast I've ever heard, but you don't know who they are. You've never done it. You'll never interact with them again. And so you want to know their name and how they're interacting. This is also a really good way to get feedback without really having to ask directly for feedback. So if they're on an app community or in a Facebook group or something, you can see how they're interacting with your content, and then you can kind of base it. Like I remember the early days, we had a Facebook group of about 13,000 guys. I would see how they were interacting with that week's podcast, and I would just pull literally from that data and say, oh, this really resonated with them. They had a question on this, or this didn't make sense to them. And then the next week, I would just speak directly to that group or to those group of guys who I could see were talking about the information. And so this is going to be really helpful for you. Also via email, take the content that you had, put it in an email, send out kind of a blog form through email, and then just ask them to reply. Hey, what stuck out to you this week? And that will be a way for you to, one, stay in touch with them so that you can continue to keep them updated on the ministry, and 2, get, kind of live real-time feedback. So anyway, we're going to follow up on this conversation and kind of keep it moving. But for right now, I just wanted to give you that to think about. And we'll jump into more at a later time.